Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about certification exam preparation tips for medical billers and coders. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. I have been a medical coder for over 10 years. I created my channel with the hope of sharing all the things that I know with all of you. So if you want more of this content, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button, like, and share this. So let's get started. Okay, you are getting ready to take your certification exam. How can you be more prepared? How can you get yourself ready to take this? This video is for you. Now, I am certified with the American Health Information Management Association. The two major powerhouse associations for medical coding in this industry are Ahima and AAPC. So if you are sitting for one of these, I understand. We've all been there. It's the nerves. It's, am I ready? Do I understand this? The thing that I'm going to suggest to you is this. Get the certification exam preparation books. Now, I will tell you this. I've gotten many upset letters from a lot of people that said that they did certification exam prep, the books, right? And for either Ahima or AAPC. And they were upset because those questions were not addressed on the exam. Guys, nobody knows what's on the exam but the associations themselves. They are not going to publish a preparation book and have those same questions be on the exam. Why? Because then everybody could pass these tests. If you look at the pass-fail rates, especially on Ahima, they have the pass-fail rates on there, and it's very tough. These certification exams are very, very difficult, and they're difficult for a reason, because this field is a very serious field. This is not a field for just, oh, well, we just want to certify a bunch of people. You have to know what you're doing in order to pass these certification exams. And even when you pass your certification exam, you're still going to be learning when you get out into the real world, okay? So this is just the tip of the iceberg. So get ready, because it's going to be a lifelong learning process. But when you are using these practice exam books, what it's designed for is to help you to pace yourself, to know how to pace yourself, because it's giving you multiple choice, and it's giving you like the word problems and things like that. So it's testing you on those things, because it's getting you in that mode of, this is what the test feels like, this is what it looks like, this is what, what you're going to be looking at. You can pace yourself and learn to watch your time and make sure that you're getting through at a very efficient pace, because that's what you want. You don't want to sit there and start second guessing yourself and wondering, is it going to be this one? Is it going to be that one? You need to go through at a very good pace. The way that this is done is by practicing with those books. You should also reread your guidelines. A lot of times people dismiss reading the guidelines because they think, oh, well, I just read it and I know. Keep reading them. I knew of a lady who was in one of the degree programs, and she said that every week that her teacher made all of them read the coding guidelines every single week. Had they already read it before? Sure. But repetitive reading is what really helped to drive home the knowledge of the guidelines. Because after a while, your brain is going to be like, okay, we know this, and we're able to retain this because we've seen it before. That's what you got to do with adults in adult learning, right? It's all about repetition. Use flashcards. Now, people get upset, and it never fails. Blue, I don't want to do flashcards. If you don't want to listen to my advice, you don't have to. I'm giving you the tips that made me successful. I took my certification exam the first try and I passed. So what I am passing on to you guys is what I have learned from my time when I took my certification, and from what I've learned over the years from others who have taken their certification exams and what was successful for them. So again, you don't have to take my advice, but at the same time, I'm just trying to help you. All right. So taking the time to do some flashcards yourself, writing them out, and spending the time and going over these flashcards, do the things that you know are most tripping you up. If you have trouble with medical terminology, and the prefixes, the suffixes, and root words is what you have to know. Don't try to memorize a bunch of medical terms, because the likelihood that you're going to have to remember a lot of medical terms specifically is going to go is variable, right? But if you know the prefixes, the suffixes, and the root words, you're going to be able to piece together words, and you're going to be able to understand what you're looking at a lot more easier than if you're trying to sit there and memorize all these words. So really concentrate on your prefixes, your suffixes, and your root words. Now, when you do that, that you're breaking it down to a much more manageable, something much more manageable for you to work with. All right. It's all about doing the manageable things, because if you try to overthink on how to study, and you're going to overwhelm yourself, and you don't want to do that. Everything is manageable. You just have to know how to work these things, right? So with medical terminology, look at that. Things that hang you up and that you struggle with the most. Those are the ones that you need to focus on. Do the flashcards for those. Watch videos on medical terminology or anatomy and physiology. Do that. YouTube is a wonderful resource when it comes to study materials. And don't just use materials that are meant for medical coders. You can use materials that are meant for nurses or doctors. I've seen, because we all know how social media attracts the things that we think about and that we do. But I did see an ad for, it was like a model. It was like one of those little plastic models, and it's of the human body. And then it had all the different organs and everything, so that and it was designed for nurses so that they know, how to look at things and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, that would be really good for medical coders, because then they could learn. Of course, you have ones for the joints, and you have ones for, just the different organ systems. So it's really very interesting. So get creative on the things that you are learning from. And don't just pigeonhole yourself into medical billing and coding. Look at other resources to learn things. I've talked about reading the New England Journal of Medicine, and yes, that's further on down the line, but that is a unusual study tool that I use, because it tells me a lot about different specialties and different conditions. So these are some of the things that you can do. Try to think outside the box when it comes to studying. Also, set up a schedule where you are focused on what you're doing. Get rid of your phone, put it aside, put it on mute, just get it away from you and concentrate on what you're doing, because you're not going to have to do this forever. This time to study for your certification exam is only going to be temporary, folks. It's not going to last forever until you go in and you take your certification exam. And with a lot of study and a lot of focus and drive, you'll pass your certification exam, okay? And now, if something, God forbid, happens that you don't pass, I'm going to be talking about that on another episode, okay? But that's just something, we're not going to think about that right now. You need to focus on, you can do this. At the end of the day, you know a lot more than you think you do. And when you sit there and you start second guessing yourself, always remember, when you're doing these practice tests, these practice runs by yourself, it's going to steal those minutes if you keep sitting there second guessing yourself. Just go with your first instinct. And whatever your gut says first, that's the one you want to go with. Because believe it or not, your mind's already taking over when it's looking at these tests, right? And it's like, okay, we know this, and we know this, and we know this. So again, use that as your guide, okay? But if look at the time length of your certification exam, however long the time length of your certification exam is, then that's the time that you need to set aside to yourself to be doing a practice run on your test. And make sure that you don't have access to your phone. Make sure that you are left alone, so that way you can get through and see how you do. Because then that's going to get your mind and everything else into that mode of, we are in test mode. And this is what's going to happen on this test. So if you can get yourself trained that way, it's going to be a lot better. But use those study exam prep guides as a guide rather than, okay, I'm going to concentrate only on this. Use many other resources. I do have my Patreon channel. Now, my Patreon channel is filled with exercises. It's filled with crossword puzzles for medical terminology. So there's a lot of things that I offer on my Patreon website. And the starting pledge levels is just $1 per month. Now, before you say, oh, you're just trying to sell your program, it's not that. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give you guys other options. There's other options that you can do. I would post this on my YouTube channel, but as I've seen for a long time now, when I talk about specific coding things, nobody watches them. So it's just like, there's really no point. But if I put it on Patreon, people are watching it on Patreon. So that is why I do it that way. There is also Quiz Friday. I do have Quiz Friday. It's a playlist. It is still here on my YouTube. Work with those and just try to pace yourself with those. Time yourself. See how long it's taking you to get through and selecting those codes and getting the right answers. Are you getting the right answers? If you're not getting the right answers, try to look and see and understand why. Okay? So there's also those other alternatives. Get the workbooks, not just the certification exam prep guide, but get the workbooks as well, because the workbooks are designed to help you to, understand the fundamentals more detail about medical coding. So I recommend getting those as well. And there's also, I know for Ahima, they have a whole list of all of the books and materials and resources that they recommend when studying for their certification exams. I don't know if AAPC has it. I'm sure they have something, but I know Ahima does for sure. So go to the specific certification exam that you are going to be taking, whether it's the RHIA, the RHIT, the CCS, the CCSP, the CCA, or any of the other specialty credentials, the CDIP, and so on and so forth. And look and see what materials or books do they recommend. And get those, check them out and see. And just read them, go over them, look at the books, okay? So that's pretty much what I can say. Also, look at the appendix section. If you are working with Optum 360 coding books, now this is not an ad for Optum 360, but I love Optum 360 books. Anyway, Optum 360, their ICD-10-CM expert for physicians, has a wonderful appendix section. Lots of really good information. The other books have this as well. But I don't know specifically in their terms what's in their books. All I know is about Optum 360 because I have them. The CPT book, the AMA edition, the professional edition that you do need for your certification exams, they have really good appendixes in the back as well, with an E&M section that they're giving like examples about the levels of E&M. So very good resource to check out. Look at the appendixes, because when you are taking your certification exams, you never know if you're going to need some information that's in the appendix. All right, so there's lots of tables back there. They have the different, just different. I'm blanking right now, but there's lots of really good information in the appendixes of both the CPT and the ICD-10-CM book. And if you're taking an inpatient test, look in your PCS book, the ICD-10-PCS. Get familiar with the test. A lot of times, and this is probably why AAPC is really big on tabbing their books. With Ahima, they do allow for tabbing, but the tabs have had to come with the book. Okay, so the AMA book does, the CPT book does have tabs to go with it. So that's why it's okay to have those. When I was coming up, though, I did not have tabs at all. My books were very clean, and I didn't have to worry about any of those tabbing things. But tabbing does help. They say it helps because, to keep from flipping in the book. But if you're already familiar with the book, you see how easier it is to get through the book if you're already familiar because you've been going through the book and looking at it. So that is what I recommend for taking your certification exams. Now, is it going to be a change? Yes. I recommend not cramming. Whatever you do, do not cram. You're going to learn all you've had to learn, all the time that you've had. And to cram at the last minute is really, all it's going to do is work your nerves. Okay. So you need to make sure that you are in a good headspace and you're good mentally, right? You are ready and prepared. Because yes, you are. You've had all of this time to train. You've had all of this training, and you've put in your own work effort. Okay, you've really tried, and all you can do is just shine now. Okay, now if something happens, the alternative, and you don't pass, it's all right. We're going to be talking about it in another episode. But for the most part, you need to go in with a very confident attitude, because yes, you can do this. It's going to be the beginning of a wonderful future for you. And it's exciting. It's exciting. And especially when you get in there and you really know, how you're going to get through this and you're going to do this. And by the time you know it, you're going to be a medical coder. And hopefully you're going to be still watching my channel. So just think positively and you stay away from anybody that's negative. Get away from any negative Facebook medical coding groups, because I'd already done tell you guys about that, because people will talk, and sometimes they will talk very bad. If they can't pass their test, they will tell you about not being able to pass your test. No, you need to get positive people around you, and that's what you need to keep around you. Get away from anybody that's negative, because that can impact how you're thinking, and you don't want that. You want to be able to stay focused. So that is my recommendation on that. It's very simple, straightforward stuff. Continue to read, guys. Go over the guidelines and look for other alternative study materials for like nurses or doctors and things like that. Because it's not just about like what medical coders, do. It is the whole picture. So that would be just what I would pass on to you guys for today. That is my episode for today. So I hope you'll join me for tomorrow for Q&A Tuesday, and I will go ahead and wrap this one up. So if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider, or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye!